regarding the pressure being placed on our communities regarding the renewable energy plan for the future using agricultural land for wind and solar projects by the state of Michigan. As many of you know, due to the new law that will go into effect in November, local municipalities that spent time and money implementing their own set of rules will no longer have the final say in project siting. It will be up to a group of unaccountable and unelected officials to be able to make decisions regarding zoning of wind and solar projects without the input of the community. The state of Michigan has an aggressive campaign to site wind and solar projects to the tune of about 210,000 acres here in Michigan by the year 2040. This estimate takes nearly 6% of Michigan's total area, according to the chairman of the Michigan Public Service Commission that is set to take over project siting. The state of Michigan favors these energy companies that are for-profit companies and have no regard for the community, no regard for the health and safety of the non-participating residents that have lived in and around farmland for years. In addition, I attended a Zoom meeting with the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs regarding the renewable energy and energy storage siting that included members of the MPSC, Eagle, Invenergy, and several other interested parties. And a couple of notable points of interest that I recognized was they questioned whether it was necessary to hold public hearings once the law goes into effect, and whether or not they can go straight to the MPSC for siting. Many townships and counties are in the midst of their ordinance updates, and it would be highly advisable to continue the process of implementing rules that protect everyone. Local zoning ordinances are supposed to be written in the spirit of protecting and serving the local residents. And while the details are being worked out at the state level, it would benefit the community to continue putting plans in place. Currently, there is a ballot initiative taking place called Citizens for Local Choice to restore local zoning, and signatures by the thousands have been pouring in, and it would benefit our communities to have rules that protect everyone's rights in the event that this law is repealed and every other option to overturn it is exhausted. This ballot initiative is endorsed by the Michigan Association of Counties, Michigan Farm Bureau, the Association of Builders and Contractors, the Michigan Townships Association, and a multitude of other boards and commissions. This petition signing has been well underway since February, and the intention is to get roughly 370,000 ballot signatures. We are in our last 2 weeks of collecting, and this is our last big push in our effort. This is an important effort for the people of Michigan to have a say in their local governing bodies, and we could use all of the help we can get in these last 2 weeks. Beyond the initiative by Citizens for Local Choice and ordinances, with the ordinances and laws, there are things that I've been presenting on my own to other boards and commissions, planning commissions and townships. And some of that information is as follows. Mid-Michigan's agricultural heritage has been an asset for our state, and with the projected amount of land usage suggested by the state of Michigan, substituting crop production for solar projects would take away millions of bushels of corn, soy, wheat, and sugar beets, among many grains, for decades, if not permanently. Keep in mind that this phenomenon of solar on farmland is nationwide and will equate to higher prices for food shortages, and insecurities, and will contribute to the decline of every single business that relies on agriculture. These businesses include seed suppliers, granaries, fertilizer companies, grain production plants, machine shops, feed stores, and trucking companies, just to name a few. If the businesses that rely on agriculture do not succeed, expect to see job losses by the thousands, and what that would mean for the future of Michigan's economy. In regard to revenue for the municipalities from the wind and solar projects, there are indications in many counties that the depreciation of the turbines and other tax income is not what has been anticipated, and there have been several problems and setbacks. Additionally, the budgets of every county rely heavily on property taxes, and there are several indicators that property values will plummet in and around solar and wind projects, and this fact should be considered. What percentage of our agriculture are we willing to sacrifice? There is nothing implemented currently to protect any agriculture, and once this Pandora's box is opened, we should expect to see a domino effect in the community. For instance, our tenant farmers who merely lease their farmland will be forced to find land elsewhere, or be forced to go out of business if the land that they lease is then leased to the solar companies. Or consider this, our dairy farmers and beef farmers that rely on acreage to spread manure no longer have access to the land, will then be forced to reduce their herds or go out of business. What then? Who will provide beef and dairy to the consumers? Will we have to rely on other countries for our food supply? Please keep in mind there is not much in the way of oversight or regulations, and many of the solar companies get sold several times. Some go bankrupt and some are sold to foreign countries. Additionally, what regulations are enforced when countries like China manufacture 80% of all solar panels? Who is going to make sure the solar company is following the rules? There are already instances where the rules were not followed and a permit was pulled, but then the rules were discarded and the company was allowed to continue building, completely negating local ordinances. It is notable to recognize at this point that there are people who have had good interactions with developers, but in communications with my community, all of what I've heard has been negative. And just a few of these conversations are as follows. 85-year-old mother being harassed by solar companies and son had to threaten legal avenues if they did not stop harassing her. Gratiot County landowner who has been approached 7 times, and this last time was told something to the effect of, you might as well sign a solar lease or we will get it through eminent domain. One young man who works on electric cabling for solar projects told me if this were his land, he would never do this, and this land will never go back into agriculture. One farmer complained that topsoil was removed and taken completely off his land and trucked off to an undisclosed location. Another farmer upset that the solar company removed his wooded acreage that was not an anticipated move, but could do nothing about it. A beekeeper that I spoke with recently is concerned that pollinators who rely on crops to pollinate and produce honey. How will the heat generated by the solar panels affect the pollinators? Concerns from farmers that noxious weeds will go to seed, and how will that affect their crop production? Concerns for farmers of the damage that wildlife such as deer will cause, as they will be more concentrated on the fields that continue to grow crops and the decline in yield. Recently I just talked to a young lady who has a wedding venue. She has a barn, and they're going to install solar all the way around. And so what is that going to mean for her business? We are making mistakes in a hurry with solar on farmland. We have never seen the full life cycle of a solar project, and it would be a prudent decision to stop and figure out what the right policies are before we leave a trail of casualties in our wake in the ambitious pursuit of clean energy. Of course, we are trying to get all of our points across. I'm trying to get all my points across all at once to somebody people that I've just met. But I've been doing this since January, and I have a whole packet for everybody of just some materials that I have found that I find pertinent. So it'll be some reading material for you before bed. But I thank you, and I hope that you will share some of the information with the Planning Commission, because I have some information in there for them as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Informative.